Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. Today we're taking a look at a Spyderco exclusive sprint run, and as of recent they have really been hitting these limited releases out of the park. Spyderco anything seems to be really hot right now. This here is the Spyderco Jester. This particular version of the Jester is an exclusive to KnifeJoker, and I'm fairly certain this has been my first purchase through them as well. This run of the Jester, though, is unique for two reasons. The first being that the FRN handles are glow-in-the-dark material. So during the day, it looks like a jade color, but if you charge the material with the flashlight and take it into the dark, you can really see the effect. It's kind of gimmicky and it doesn't really stay bright for super long, but in a way it could, perhaps be useful as a keychain knife, and it definitely makes the Jester a nice conversation piece, if anything. The second thing that makes this run of the Jester nice is this CPM 20CV blade steel. I think for the primary use case of this knife being a keychain knife, having a higher end blade steel could be pretty beneficial since it's going to require less sharpening, less upkeep than its counterparts in VG10 would have. And before I say anything else, I will mention that this knife is small, much smaller than you're even thinking right now. So the overall length of this knife open is about 4.5 inches, and the blade comes in at less than 2 inches. This kind of small, though, is not necessarily a bad thing. I thought when buying this, reading the specs, that since it was a sub 2-inch blade, it might be nice to make some comparisons with some of my California legal auto knives, since they are also sub 2 inches in length. But even then, the Jester is even smaller than pretty much every knife in my auto collection. So be forewarned, again, this is a small knife, know what you're getting. The upside of being so small, though, is that the Jester weighs almost nothing. It comes in at exactly 0.6 ounces, or about 17 grams. Any knife that comes in at less than an ounce is impressive, and I'm thinking that this now is probably my most lightweight knife that I own. The size and weight really lends itself to making this an ideal keychain carry knife. The knife has a good size lanyard hole, so whether you choose to use a lanyard or a key ring, it should be relatively easy to keep the Jester on you with your keys most of the time. In the words of the late and great Ron Popeil,
set it and forget it.
Looking more into the construction of this knife, I initially thought it was pinned together, but there are two tiny T5 torque screws holding the knife together. So I suppose that disassembly is possible, and I did double check. They are T5 sized screws, so I'm thinking the uncommon size is Spyderco's way of telling you, don't take this knife apart. The action of the knife, though, is fine. If it's somewhat awkward, to open the blade one-handed due to the size being so small. There's absolutely no wiggle or play in the blade when open. The centering looks fine, and the blade does come hair-popping sharp, as the stubble on my arm, can surely attest to that. My current keychain knife that I have with me every day is the MB Zip Knife, so video linked up in the corner. Due to its titanium construction, it does weigh a bit more than the Jester, even though it's a bit smaller in overall size. I think I may switch out the knives and see how the Jester carries in pocket too as well. Still, the Jester itself is an interesting knife, as it is essentially the same handle as the Spyderco Ladybug, but it has a different blade shape. And the blade shape lends itself to a few different grip options, as the jimping on the blade gives you something to grip onto when you're controlling the knife. So whether you control the knife with your pointer finger or you choke up with your thumb, their options are there and they're available to you, which is nice for such a small knife. I think it's rather surprising that the Jester does not seem to be a regular production model, compared to knives like the Spyderco Ladybug or the Man Bug. So now let's make some comparisons with some other knives. First, I want to compare it to the Spyderco Dragonfly, as I had always thought of the Dragonfly as kind of the definitive small Spyderco. This one I have with us is the blue-handled TNP version. It has a black-coated S35 VN blade. And the Jester makes the Dragonfly look huge in comparison. So check them out side by side, pivot to pivot. Big difference there. I also wanted to compare it to some of my smaller California legal autos. And right here is the Microtech UTX 70. And we can see the blade length is comparable. But even the tiny UTX 70 has a larger handle than the Jester. The Microtech, though, it's also very lightweight. Comes in weighing a little over an ounce. But it probably isn't the kind of knife a person would really keep on their keychain. At least I wouldn't. Also, another small OTF I have for comparison is the Boker Plus USB. This one is more similar to the same price range as the Jester, and size-wise they compare very well. Overall length is very similar, and both of these knives were really meant to be keychain knives. That's about all they have in similarity, though. As much as we can compare, can compare a lockback to an OTF. This USB I carried on my keychain for several months after I bought it, and other than a little pocket wear, it worked, really well as a keychain knife. But one more wild card I kind of want to throw in the video is my Civivi Kai-V. This is a pretty recent release, and while it isn't intended to be a keychain knife, in terms of size, it has a similar overall length, similar cutting edge. This one also came in the jade green color, but I did RIT dye it and got a nice dark emerald green that we see here now. I've recently started a trend towards smaller knives, and so it's been kind of surprising with how many I could have featured in this video as really decently competitive options versus the Jester. Before we're done, though, like I mentioned, this was my first purchase from KnifeJoker, and ironically, the name kind of fits since the Joker is offering the Jester. They included a few little extras in the order, and I wanted to mention it since it's appreciated. So we have an included sticker, which you might expect since many knife retailers, they throw in their sticker with all their purchases. And I do like the design as it's very sterile, and you could really put this Joker sticker anywhere, and 99.9% of the world will not know it's a knife related emblem. And so that's kind of pretty cool. It's like an in-joke aspect they put into the sticker, so that's really nice. Also, though, they included in the box a really neat little lanyard bead that has a Joker on it, so that's very cool. I'm not sure if these were only going out with these Jesters or if they do that for more of their orders, but I appreciate any and all forms of knife swag that I can get my hands on. So big thank you to KnifeJoker for that. So in the end, sadly now this Jester is sold out from KnifeJoker, but keep an eye out for it on the secondary market, your eBays, Blade forums, usual suspects, Reddit sale pages, for people who are trying to unload their knives. I think that many buyers are going to open this and realize how small the knife is and decide, I think it's better to pass this knife on. Because if the size of this knife is what you're looking for, I think the 20CV blade really has a lot to offer and makes a difference here. So let me know if you have any questions about the knife that I can answer. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and leave any and all comments below. I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.